Okay, everybody, are we ready again? Because I'm just getting carried away DJing up here for you. It's like being at a sober rave. Never DJed in a suit before. I quite like it. Welcome back to the future of media. I'm Magic Radio's Neve Spencer. I do the afternoon show. It's my pleasure to be your DJ and your voice of God today. Now, I'm going to be guiding you through the day. My co-host for this next theme is the brilliant Sam Tidmarsh, Head of Conference Production at Ad Wanted Events. Are you there, Sam?
I am indeed. Hello. Hi.
You get an intro song from me.
How are you, Neve?
I thought you might like that intro song. I chose it especially for you with much consideration. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying it so far. I tell you what, it was so packed in Hall 2 that some people actually couldn't get into the room. So I just wanted to let you know, if you've missed any of the content from today, you can watch it all back on our YouTube channel afterwards, Ad Wanted UK. We're also going to send an email out. But without further ado, Neve, what do we have coming up next?
So much is going on, so much for you to also look forward to between now and our lunch break. Now, it's all about PepsiCo, who have used technological advancements in measurement to improve the effectiveness of their brand advertising. To tell us more, I'd like to welcome on Sarah Robson, Global Head of Advertising Effectiveness at On Device. You can start clapping. Tim Brandon, Head of Agile Research at OMD UK, and Ike Ogbedu, Senior Research Consultant at OMD UK.
Hi everybody, I hope you're suitably rested after a little break. Thank you for that introduction. Today I'm joined by OMD and we're going to take you through our journey with Pepsi in measuring their cross-media effectiveness. So Pepsi, about 2 years ago, set us all a challenge. And the challenge, put simply, Tim's going to explain more in detail later, was their advertising spend effective? And if it wasn't, which bits were and which bits weren't? So it was great to hear earlier about Project Origin, how they've really moved the space in cross-media to try and look at reach and frequency and try and get a standard currency. But what about cross-media? Has there been any development there to try and get a consistent framework across measuring campaigns' brand effectiveness? So I'm just going to do a quick poll. Sorry, I can't really see you. I've got the light straight in my eye, so I'll come over here. I want to do a quick poll. How many of you who look after brands or work for brands use more than one measurement partner when looking at cross-media effectiveness? Use more than one. Okay, you're not alone. In a survey done by Nielsen, 62% of marketers said they used one or more brand measurement partner to measure ad effectiveness. And actually, when you go further down, a staggering 15% use more than 5 measurement partners. So I'm not quite sure if you're going to be measuring things consistently how that works if you're using different measurement partners. So now I'm going to hand you over to Tim, who's going to explain the challenge that Pepsi set for us.
So 2 years ago, we took a really simple challenge to On Device. It was just measuring the brand lift of our brand media on our KPIs. To make it a little bit more tricky, this was for PepsiCo, so they're a portfolio brand. So there's 4 brands to cover there. Those 4 brands have lots of different campaigns, so we were looking at 10 different channels, both offline and online. Those different channels have lots of different campaigns, so we were looking at about a dozen different brand KPIs. Iron Brew really changes things when you're looking at the beverages market in Scotland, so we needed geo in there as well. We wanted optimal frequency by channel, and we wanted all the granular data so we could run our own sort of data science projects on it. So, like I say, a really simple brief of measuring the impact of the brand media on the brand KPIs.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, well, I don't think it was exactly simple. The proposal we were sent was 4 brands across 10 different media, so that was offline and online, measured in a consistent way, and measuring 6 KPIs. So how did we rise to that challenge? Well, if we go back 2 years before we were actually set this challenge, at On Device, we were able to measure brand effectiveness across most channels. And we were using, in some cases, quite advanced technology. So, for example, for out of home, we used GPS tracking overlaid with the playout reports to make sure a person was in the right place at the right time. And we were able to match exposures against our single source database. And indeed, for display, we were able to use pixels. But for some of the walled gardens, such as social media and actually linear TV, which actually made a big part of Pepsi's plan, we relied on less reliable technology. So we used, for example, in-context testing to run TikTok and Meta and YouTube. And we used OTS for TV. But this still wasn't what Pepsi wanted. They wanted a consistent framework with everything measured correctly. So like you heard there with Project Origin, that actually you had a sort of consistent framework where you're comparing apples with apples. So we set on our journey with Pepsi and with OMD to see if we could push the boundaries of what we're doing to actually passively measure everything and put it against our own single source database. So next came the challenge of just sort of fitting the bits of the jigsaw that we were missing. So first of all, before we started the actual project, we partnered with Samba TV. Now, Samba TV have ACR technology that works in about a third of UK TVs. That ACR technology, through digital fingerprinting, can actually pick up exposures to ads, be it on linear TV, BVOD, CTV, or indeed, actually, because Pepsi did have a big chunk of money against program sponsorship and actually product placement. So we were able to match their data with ours through smart IP matching, and so therefore we were able to actually match against a single source database. So this meant for the first time, just as Project Origin we're talking about, across most of the media now, we were able to dedupe and isolate the exposures that people had. So for example, we could tell if Tim saw it on out of home and heard it on the radio, and I saw it on display. So we were able to get to the nub of that data. And the way we did that was by building our exposure engine to actually match each exposure against an individual on our single source database. So off we started on our journey with Pepsi, but we still wanted to move the boundaries further. We still had a piece of the jigsaw missing, and that was social media. How could we get behind picking up social media exposure and match that against the other media that we were measuring? So in this case, we partnered again with another technology company called Reality Mine. Reality Mine have meters that read the adverts that you're exposed to on Meta, TikTok, and YouTube. And so we got our panelists to actually add additional functionality to what they do for us, and we're able then to actually passively pick up the effect of being exposed to that advertising, and again, match that back against our single source database. So now we have built an exposure engine that could match all exposures back to an individual person. So you are now using the same currency to measure the effect of being advertising on TV or on social media or any combination of all of them. At this point, we were able to measure actually 97% of Pepsi's media plan. At the start, it was around 84, and it moved on to 97% as we go through. And we're still pushing boundaries to see if we can measure other little bits that we are still missing. But it meant that we could actually measure even a very innovative ad like the one I'm going to show you. So back in March, Pepsi rebranded, and they had this really iconic drone ad. This ad was actually using drones, you'll see in a second, to make the Pepsi Max can. And it was actually over sort of waterways in England. And we were able to use our out-of-home methodology to say who was actually exposed to this ad. So I'm going to play the ad for you. Hopefully it will play.
Yeah, we ready, so let's go.
There you go. So this diagram represents how we actually matched exposures against individuals. So now we have feeds coming in from audio, social, TV, out of home, and digital. We're able to match those exposures back to an individual, then complete our field work to measure the brand metrics that were all important to PepsiCo, and then come out with some actionable insights. But I'm just going to hand over to Tim, who's going to talk about the journey he was on with us.
I'm going to give you that. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So I think, like, Sarah's talked through all the sort of the technical aspect of getting this to happen. I think, for me, what was most interesting about the journey we've been on in the past 2 years is that when we came with this brief 2 years ago, what we're doing now wasn't possible. And the only way we've got to this point is by constantly collaborating and challenging and asking really awkward questions. So a lot of long meetings at our office with, you know, the brains of On Device and the brains of OMD saying, is this thing possible? We want to get better crossover between AV and social so we can measure the overlap there. And then On Device sort of looking, sort of like, oh, cool, yes, that's an opportunity. And going away, and then they would share back, sort of, this is possible. We've spoken to these partners. We're going to make it happen. And I think sort of the conclusion we've got to over these 2 years is that if you ask the right questions, then you can get to the right answers. And it's just about collaborating, not relying on the sort of the business as usual in terms of measurement, because it's constantly evolving. And yeah, with measurement partners, you can ask for the impossible, and 2 years later, it will be possible eventually. Yeah, so it's been a great journey, and Ike's now going to talk through some of the results we've seen on Pepsi.
Hello, everyone. So working with On Device and our internal analytics teams, we've been able to answer some of those questions posed by Tim earlier. For us and Pepsi, it's all been about setting up the right measurement program and understanding the most effective channels to drive their brand metrics. We've luckily been able to deliver on that clarity, giving them a cleaner signal of which channels perform best against which audiences and the combined effects of these channels as well. Because like many in the industry, we've seen that we rely quite a lot on pre-post brand lift studies and also on consumers' claimed attribution. The solution provided by On-Device Research is a really nifty and innovative solution, which has allowed us and our clients as well to really understand where their ad spend is making the most impact and how they can continually optimize against this. We've also built an understanding as a team as well of what cross-media measurement is all about. And over the past 5 or 6 months, we've been able to implement this approach, not just across OMD, but also across the Omnicom Media Group, for our client measurement frameworks and in multi-brand studies too, which you might hear of in the future. The aim for us over the next year is really to continue driving this innovation and collaboration with On Device and some of our partners in the room today as well. Our work really centers around understanding the metrics that matter and delivering granular measurement and insights across audiences and objectives. Going deeper, we want to be able to point directly to the creatives that are working and the tactics that elevate these creatives as well, because that's really what our clients are looking for to set them up for future success.
Thanks, Ike. So what are our core learnings we've learned along the way? So we haven't just expanded this brand measurement now across the OMG group, but actually we've expanded it across hundreds of brands, across lots of agency groups. So we have produced a white paper about the effect of cross-media campaigns. So if you scan that QR code, I'll leave it on the screen there for a second, it's also on all the desks outside as well. You'll be able to download our free white paper, which we actually launched today, this morning, which will give you some insights that we've learned along the way about cross-media. But I'm just going to take you through some of those now. And the first insight that we've discovered is that all campaigns that are booked on cross-media rather than a few spots on individual media channels actually have a multiplier effect. And this works across the funnel, but it's actually more prevalent when you look at intent and consideration. Now, consideration is often seen as the most future driver of future sales, and you'll see there that there's nearly a 3-time multiplier effect by actually being on more than one channel. We call this a reinforcement effect, that actually seeing it in a different environment is having a bigger impact than just seeing 2 spots on one environment. So that was our first core finding. The next is that each individual channel has something to play in terms of moving brand metrics. Now, this isn't new. This has been out there for a long time. But we know certain channels do certain things. So, for example, there's no surprise there that TV works well on awareness and social works well on intent. But one finding that came out of there when we're looking at individual channels was actually out of home. That drives consistently uplifts across all the metrics, and perhaps people might just see it out of home as a big reach awareness building media. But where the true magic comes in is when you start looking at the combination. So you've got to understand what each media channel is adding to the footprint in terms of brand metrics, but it's when you look at it together that actually the true magic comes out. So what we've done here is we've plotted top of funnel metrics with brand awareness against purchase intent, and then we've looked at the different combinations of channels that are giving us those average uplifts. Now, there's some very interesting findings there. For example, in the upper funnel of awareness, the biggest observed differences were where you've had a visual element. So that could be either TV or display video. And then you had to combine that with an awareness driving medium, such as display or audio. And then when you come to the middle of the funnel, which often people see as brand love, you'll see there that social actually plays a really important role. Now, we think that is because social often gives you an emotive feel, and it actually means that the brand means something to you as a person. And then finally, when you look at the end of the funnel where you've got purchase intent, there you'll see that although TV is often seen as a driver of awareness, actually having TV or some visual aspect to your media combined with other media actually has the biggest effect on shifting awareness. There's still more to do. This is looking at, I think it's 100 studies we've done to date. This is showing that, and we'll do some more. But as I say, please scan that QR code. There's a lot more detail in the white paper. And then finally, the other thing that came out of our findings was actually when you start looking at individual channels, so this one we looked at display video and digital display, actually it has an effect on the channel if it's bought with some other media. So again, you're seeing differences there in actually the channel response when it's actually bought with other media. So in conclusion, so our cross-media campaigns are more effective than single media. Now, we looked at this at different expenditure levels, all the way from 100,000 all the way up to the millions of pounds expenditure. It is true, whatever that level of investment is. Secondly, you've got to understand what each channel is taking in each part of the media funnel. Once you understand that, then you are able to be better to understand the optimum mix you need to be able to shift the metrics that are important to you. And finally, as I said, cross-media campaigns can create a sort of lift effect to the actual channel that it's on. So when they're bought with another channel, you see a multiplier effect on that individual channel. So I hope that us all talking to you today has inspired you to try and navigate the very complex world that is with fragmented media. There is such a need to have a single cross-media measurement because, as we all know, media fragmentation is getting bigger and bigger, but we're also seeing platforms actually now planning campaigns across a lot of media channels. So you could have one platform that's doing out-of-home, CTV, and digital all in one space. So there's a real need to have a consistent measurement framework. And also it shows that it's really important that you form a relationship with your measurement partner and that you're able to push the boundaries of what you're trying to do and use tech to try and understand better how you can fill those holes that aren't being met. So as we say on device, if you really want to measure cross-media properly, effectively, then you need to be more Pepsi. Thank you for listening.